by the community and law enforcement. We get their pictures on television, get it broadcast on commercial radio.
The prison officers joined the Karnes County Sheriff's Department and Texas Highway Patrol in scouring the area around the prison. Police stopped motorists on every road and checked out their IDs and car trunks.
We established a perimeter 3 miles around the unit. Once they get out of the perimeter, they've got the advantage.
Law enforcement knew that the public safety depended on getting these men back behind bars, and fast.
There was no doubt that these individuals were dangerous. We had no idea where they were going or what they were going to do, and we were all concerned for the public.
Just days later, the worst fears of law enforcement came true.
This TLC program is sponsored in part by the all-new Accord from Honda.
7 armed and dangerous criminals make a daring escape from the John Connolly prison and speed off to freedom. State and local law enforcement agencies set up roadblocks in several counties. Officers combed the area for the escapees, now dubbed the Texas-7. In Huntsville, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice establishes a task force to coordinate the manhunt.
The best fugitive hunters in the country were working on this case, and we had 30 law enforcement agencies involved by that time.
But the convicts managed to elude everyone. Just 15 minutes after their breakup, the fugitives had abandoned the prison truck in a parking lot a few miles away. Then they took off in a Chevrolet Suburban that was left for them by Michael Rodriguez's father.
The plan had been that they would leave the keys in the tailpipe and a flower in the windshield so they would know which vehicle it was. There was also about $400 cash in the vehicle.
The escapees drove 60 miles north to San Antonio and continued on 200 miles east to Houston, where they hung out in a cheap hotel. Rivas and Murphy dyed their hair to disguise their identities.
These inmates are laying low, so to speak, but we're just not sure that they're out of the area. We just don't know yet.
The search for the 7 escapees has entered.
On December 16th, the television show America's Most Wanted aired the story of the Texas-7. The Texas-7 task force was flooded with phone calls from frightened viewers as the entire country went on alert.
We were getting sightings all over the United States and in Mexico, and each one of those sightings was checked out by law enforcement.
But despite all the phone tips, there were no viable leads. The fugitives seemed to have vanished into thin air. Then on Christmas Eve, 11 days after their escape, the Texas-7 surfaced at the Oshman Sporting Goods store in the Dallas, Texas suburb of Irving. The criminals knew there'd be a lot of cash in the registers from last-minute shoppers. They wore security guard uniforms they had purchased a day earlier and carried walkie-talkies. Parked out in front of the store in their getaway vehicle was Patrick Murphy. His job was to be the gang's good eye, or lookout. At 6 p.m. the store closed and the last customers left. Manager Wesley Ferris was approached by George Rivas, who said he worked for the store's security company and wanted to show the employees photos of thieves who had been robbing local businesses.
I knew that we were having a problem with that in the area, so I didn't have any reason to doubt it.
Rivas's clever ploy to get all the employees in one place worked. Then he let Ferris and the others know why he was really there.
He said, "This is a robbery, everybody stay where you're at." And I turned around and he's standing there with a gun pointing at me.
In an instant, the stunned employees were surrounded by 6 armed fugitives. Rivas ordered 2 of his captives to remove their work shirts and hand them over to Newberry and Harper. The young hostages were taken to the employee break room, where Garcia, Rodriguez, and Halpern forced them to face the wall and kneel.
Get down!
They got a little physical with one of the associates, one of the kids.
I say get on your knees! What are you smiling about? Don't smile!
Tie his ass up!
The ruthless criminals tied up their terrified victims and stole their wallets, cell phones, and jewelry. Meanwhile, Rivas demanded that Ferris hand over all the cash in the store.
He says, put all the money in the bag. So I put the bills into the bag. At that time, I had a feeling that none of us were going to leave that building tonight.
Harper and Newberry loaded up several shopping carts with guns, bullets, and other supplies. The criminal shopping spree was suddenly interrupted. An employee's girlfriend had come to pick him up.
One of them told them that we were going to be working a little late, but she knew most of the employees that worked there, and she didn't recognize this individual, and she thought something was out of place.
The woman returned to her car parked directly in front of the store and told her friend what she had seen. A few minutes later, they called 911.
They were parked right next to a Chevy Suburban, and in that Chevy Suburban was the 7th member with an AR-15 rifle and a shotgun. And he had a scanner, and he was listening to the police monitoring.
At that same moment, 29-year-old Irving, Texas police officer Aubrey Hawkins was having dinner with his family. He received a dispatch reporting suspicious activity at the Oshman store.
Copy that.
Hawkins immediately headed off to the location.
All right, buddy.
Inside the store, George Rivas took Ferris back to the break room.
Rodriguez kicked me behind my knees to get me down on the floor, and he said, put your head down.
But before Rodriguez could tie Ferris up, the three fugitives got an urgent call over the walkie-talkie.
Guys, we've got company.
Murphy heard on the police scanner that an officer was en route to the store.
Let's go! Let's go! Don't anyone move!
Terrified, Ferris and his fellow employees did exactly as they were told. At 6:33 p.m., Officer Hawkins arrived at Oshman's and raced to the back of the store. The Texas-7 were loading up the last of their bounty when Hawkins pulled up right in front of them. The young officer was instantly surrounded by 7 armed and desperate men. He tried to surrender, but the fugitives showed him no mercy.
It was an ambush. Aubrey had no chance. As soon as he rounded the corner, Rivas started on him, and then the rest of them joined in.
The gang of thieves gunned down the officer in a ferocious hail of bullets. Rodriguez pulled Aubrey Hawkins out of his car and shot him again and again. Back inside the store, Ferris and the other hostages cowered in fear.
We start hearing the gunfire going off, and I was concerned right there that they were coming back and they were going to kill us all.
Go, man, go!
Instead, the vicious criminals jumped into the Suburban and escaped into the night, leaving Officer Hawkins to die on the pavement. 12 minutes later, Ferris slipped out of his bonds and untied the other employees. He immediately called 911. Within minutes, the Irving police responded to the call and secured the area. Officer Aubrey Hawkins was rushed to a nearby hospital, but was pronounced dead. The young family man had been shot 11 times.
I feel that he saved our lives. I feel that his showing up when he did probably kept them from coming back in the store.
That was probably the lowest time I think I've ever experienced in my life. That was just an awful, awful, awful day.
On December 28th, Officer Aubrey Hawkins was laid to rest.
The hardest thing I have ever done was leave Aubrey at that cemetery. It was so cold, and there were so many people, and then I turned back and looked where he was, and he was by himself.
The murder of Officer Hawkins, a capital offense, brought federal law enforcement agencies into the manhunt. The FBI, ATF, and U.S. Marshal Service threw the full weight of their resources into the search for the cop killers.